little closer? How about right there? I'm going to pray in a moment. Maybe that's not your custom. You have lots of options. You can find your breath in your body and follow it. You can gather your curiosity for the upcoming sermon. My key broke this morning. That's why I'm struggling. Or you could just rest, right? So don't feel that because I do it, you have to do it. That's one of the great things about our community. Are you ready? Take a smooth breath and we'll begin. Our friends, thank you for this day. Thank you for these assembled people. Thank you for everything that we will learn in this coming year, all the ways we will grow and change. I pray that you would help us to extend our support and our care to the persons around us, and also to this community. For all these things we give thanks and we say, Amen. The author Terry Pratchett offered this idea in his book Hogfather. Everything starts somewhere, though some physicists might disagree, but people have always been dimly aware of the problem with the start of things. They wonder, how does the snowplow driver get to work? Or how do the makers of dictionaries look up the spelling of words? Actually, a friend of mine told me all about it. He said that sometimes the snowplow drivers take the snowplows with them the night before. If we got in a car this morning and drove nearly due south, through Detroit, through Ann Arbor, eventually to Toledo, Ohio, and then slightly west, we would find ourselves 197.3 miles later in Wapakoneta, Ohio. Pastor Theresa, why are we in Wapakoneta, Ohio? Well, let me tell you. But first, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever seen a drawing that might be a rabbit, but it might be a duck? Have you seen that? Well, I'm really very grateful and very excited to be your interim minister this year. We will do ethical and spiritual journeying together. We will dig in and prepare this community for its next minister. We will trust that the God of being and becoming, that all the steps the Unitarian Universalist Association requires, are preparing at this very moment the next settled minister who will come and be with you. And one of the things we will do this year in that process is notice. Just like there's that drawing where it might be a duck or it might be a rabbit, it depends on which you notice. The power that you possess of noticing is one of your key superpowers in this coming transition. My work as interim minister will focus on supporting you in 5 key areas. The first is your heritage. So we'll be reviewing how this congregation has been shaped and formed. You, specifically, have been shaped and formed by your past leaders, both lay leaders and clergy. Another area, leadership. We'll be reviewing the member needs and the ways of organizing and developing new and increasingly effective leadership. As you transition, one of the needs that people have emphasized to me so far is ethics and spirituality. You want your church to be nourishing and strengthening. You want this to be a practice in the forefront of congregational life. We're going to be looking into that and noticing all the things that are working, helping you grow in those ways, and things that we can continue to work on. Are you ready for the third thing?
Yes.
Yeah. It's mission. We'll be defining and redefining your sense of purpose and direction. You know why, right? You can't get where you're going if you don't have a plan. We'll dig deeper into why you come together and where you want to end up. Last one, connections. We'll be discovering all the relationships that a faith community or an ethical practicing group like this one can build outside of itself. What's true to you and your vision and purpose. It's our seventh principle that asserts that one of our Unitarian Universalist values is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. That's great and familiar, but it brings us to a very important question. Can you have respect without showing it? When you think of how the congregation lives into the best version of itself, what are the main things that you identify as connections in the greater web? These are very important. As we journey together, connections that demonstrate your values are going to be essential parts of your transition. I'm ready to give you a bonus. Are you ready for a bonus? All right. We're going to be digging into the future, developing congregational and pastoral profiles. One thing that seems important to you in a future minister is that they be a dynamic and inspiring preacher. Another is that they take a balanced, intentional approach to social justice. We will continue to develop this profile and those details in the coming year. For now, let's get back to Wapakoneta, Ohio. On August 5th, 1930, near Wapakoneta, a couple named Stephen and Viola had a baby. When that baby grew and turned 6 years old, he went on his first airplane ride. And from that moment, he developed a strong interest in planes. When he was 14, he began to take flying lessons. On his 16th birthday, the young man qualified for a pilot's license. He was a serious pilot even then, and he built a small wind tunnel in his parents' basement so that he could do aeronautical experiments. That young man grew up to study at Purdue University and fly planes in the Navy. Eventually, he became the first person to walk on the surface of the moon. You know him as Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong had the opportunity to notice something that few of us ever will: how the Earth looks from outer space. Armstrong said this: "It suddenly struck me that that tiny pea, pretty and blue, was the Earth. I put up my thumb and shut one eye, and my thumb blotted out the planet Earth. I didn't feel like a giant. I felt very, very small." This is a planetary perspective. And just as Neil Armstrong had a unique point of view of our entire planet, you have a unique point of view about this congregation. When I say that noticing is your superpower in transition, it means a couple of important things. One is that all of you have come together to create the form and function of this spiritual and ethical community. Each of you knows one part, maybe more than one, at least one. Your time and your work with your part of community make you able to share what you know, able to dream about the future, and able to guide this congregation to be its best self. This is your point of view on a large scale. But there's more to your noticing. You must also become a noticer of your internal world. You will have reactions and questions. You will feel delight and joy, surprise and suspense. In these feelings and in this process, you are not alone. There is more than one reason for this. But right now, let's notice one more way that we are connected in an inextricable, interconnected way. You've probably heard these words from Walt Whitman, a Unitarian Universalist favorite. The past and the present wilt. I have filled them, emptied them, and proceed to fill the next fold of the future. He goes on to say, do I contradict myself? Very well, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. Modern science brings us a new twist. Ed Young, a science writer, clarifies a close-in perspective on the tiniest things in his book, I Contain Multitudes. The microbiome is infinitely more versatile than any of our familiar body parts. Your cells carry between 20,000 and 25,000 genes. But it is estimated that the microbes inside you wield around 500 times more. The genetic wealth, combined with their rapid evolution, makes them virtuosos of biochemistry, able to adapt to any possible challenge. So what Young is talking about is the fact that all kinds of organisms live on and in our bodies. They educate our immune system, teaching it to tell friend from foe. They contribute to our lives in profound and wide-ranging ways. This is a microbial perspective. I am here to support you in not getting stuck in either a planetary perspective or a microbial perspective. I am here to strengthen your support of one another and help you build healthy ways to engage. When you have needs or conflicts, we'll work on that. When you need your community for your dreams to come true, we'll work on that. That will happen for your community, for your family, even for your individual life. And lots of perspective will be needed in this transition. From lots of angles, lots of people with lots of skills, lots of dreams, and lots of ideas. We might even try some things that don't work. That's from a microbial perspective. But from a planetary perspective, we've identified one more thing that we don't want. Either way, whether we use a wide perspective or a close one, we will be learning together. We will dig deep. Last year, you examined Unitarian Universalist history closely. You probably saw all the ways that the past gives us strength in the present. All around us, prophetic work is happening. That's the present giving strength to the future. You can think of struggles for justice that matter to you. About an hour and 40 minutes away in Grand Rapids, a nonprofit called Our Kitchen Table is changing people's lack of access to good food in urban areas. The founder of Our Kitchen Table, Lisa Oliver, describes her work this way. We promote growing from a systemic lens and from understanding what is going on in our community. And we look at the entire food landscape. Everything from grocery stores to wild edibles to pantries to food buying clubs and co-ops. I don't do charity, she emphasizes. I just do what I'm supposed to do. I'm my brother's keeper, and I try to emphasize that. It's the best way to use my gifts to help people express kindness. It's what we should be to each other. You can think of resistance to oppression that is making a difference as well. You recently heard from Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd about how it is that we can make the world we dream about come to pass. In the coming year, your prophetic work will unfold. Reverend MacDonald Ladd would describe it this way. Prophecy is not predicting the future. Prophecy is faithfully speaking what you believe so that the truth, so named, will light a fire in our imagination and move our dry bones to rise up. And this will be our foundation for the coming year, even as our perception may shift and change. Occasionally, you can hear people say that Unitarian Universalists can believe whatever they want. Have you heard that? The part of this that's true is that we believe things. Another part that's true is that we're accepting. It becomes false when people try to suggest that we believe whatever. Rather, we will reflect truth to one another. We will practice living into covenant. We will work at right relationships, even when they are hard, even when they are awkward, even when we are sure somebody is wrong, and we are pretty sure we know who it is. Are you ready for a pro tip? Being right will never get us as far as being in right relationship. This year, we will prioritize noticing what it means to embrace various perspectives while we transition. We will transition while we work at right relationship. Even when the course seems uncertain and the project is large, we will stay together. The perspective you bring as a member of community is like a brushstroke. It's a small but distinct thing. It is the accumulation of these brushstrokes that make a masterpiece. So, you heard that there's going to be a sign up for minister meetups in the e-update. There's also going to be a link to an article about the next thing I'm going to tell you about, so you can check it out yourself. In 1985, Chuck Close painted a picture of his wife's grandmother. Her name was Fanny, so that's the name of the painting too. It was oil on canvas. The thing is, Chuck painted Fanny with fingerprints, pressing different amounts of paint with his fingers onto the canvas. If you look very close, you'll see a fingerprint. If you stand 10 feet or more away, you'll see an entire image of a grandmother. No matter what we notice this year, we will do it together. All will be well.